Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. As always, a huge thanks goes out to our sponsors who make it possible for us to be here every week. Prime 47 Downtown, Shepherd Community Center, and Tesco. And thanks to our friends here at WHMB TV 40, they allow us to present this show each week in a way that allows us not only to share who we are, but to share our faith at the same time. Tonight we have a special two-part interview to bring you. Recently I had a chance to sit down with Tim Smith. Tim has just been named the new CEO of Crosswinds Counseling. I met with him in Fort Wayne a couple of weeks ago in the time after he was named CEO, but before his tenure had officially begun, to get his vision for the organization and the work that will be happening in Indianapolis and beyond. Here is part one of that conversation. So Tim, let's start by just getting to know you. For those that don't know you, especially now into your new role as CEO, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Tim Smith, wife Angela, married 32 years, had a recent anniversary. We have 5 adult children between the ages of 23 and 29. That's noteworthy. What's more noteworthy is those 5 adult children have now given us 13 grandchildren, with 2 more on the way. In fact, there was a 1-week period this past late summer, early fall, when all 4 of our daughters and my my son's newlywed bride were pregnant during the same week.
Wow.
So God's been blessing the Smith family with grandchildren.
Of the 13, the oldest is how old?
Well, she just turned 5.
So you have 13, 5 and under.
And 12 of them are 4 and under.
What is, not to get too off topic, but what is that like, being the grandfather of 13, basically preschoolers?
Yeah, well, we're filming this in between Christmas and New Year's, which means our entire family was just together 3 out of the last 5 days. And it is as fun as it is hectic. You're talking about 12, 4 and under, so you can imagine the amount of infant care, shall we say, that's necessary in our house. Somebody's changing a diaper or feeding a child or 3 almost all the time. We're now outnumbered, so there's 2. My wife and I have 5 children and 5 spouses, so there's 12 adults. We're at 13 going to 15. We're now outnumbered, so we're playing goalie and defense more than we're playing offense.
Right. It's a zone defense.
It's a zone.
All right, so family is obviously very important, and I think that jives very well with this new role, being CEO for Crosswinds Counseling. Why does this role, this organization, mean so much to you?
Yeah, well, family in general, as you stated, that's the obvious, but more particularly the faith-centric, family-centric approach to family. Crosswinds and its sister company, Lifeline, both are grounded in a tenets of culture document that is loaded with faith, and specifically Christian faith. We certainly treat and serve and love people of all faiths, but that is our foundation. And I believe, my wife and I believe, that a Christ-centric message to the family is the only cure to all of our social ills. I mean, from stated in the positive light, you know, we think we have a great family and it's healthy and we love our kids. We have problems. Every family has problems, right? But we want people to experience the kind of joy we experience. And I see it in other family members and friends. Healthy families are just fun and solid and support networks. And so on the positive side, it's that. And I want people to experience all that's good about family. On the other side, I believe that a strong family can cure many of our social ills. Just pick the problem: educational problems, addiction problems, crime and injustice problems. I believe, Crosswinds believes, that a Christ-centric family solution is the only cure to those social ills.
Through the arm of counseling, what do you see this organization currently doing? Speaking into lives, helping people, individuals, families, couples, get their lives back on track. When you look across the landscape, give me kind of a current state report.
Yeah, well, anybody watching this is aware of what our country's been going through. We've always had a need for counseling and support for mental health in our country, in our state, in our cities across Indiana. After the last 2 years, there is no doubt the need is greater than ever. Our people, all day, every day, have the privilege to love our clientele just by talking to them. I mean, I have a hard time imagining a greater privilege than that. Loving one another is the essence of Christ's message. That's what we do as counselors. We love people into better health.
Wow. It's hard work, but it is meaningful work. When you think about leading this organization that does that valuable work in the name of Jesus, these people who are in the trenches every day, what comes to mind in terms of both something that might excite you and something that you see as a challenge as you step into your new role?
Yeah, between all of our organizations under the Lasting Change umbrella, including Crosswinds, in 2021, we will have done, by the end of this year, over 700,000 hours of counseling to folks all across the state of Indiana. That's exciting. It is more exciting to me to think of that number as 2 million or 3 million. If we're right, and I'm pretty convinced we are, that a Christ-centric family solution is the solution, 700,000 hours just this year in 2021, 2-3 million hours in the future. You ask me the state of counseling. The state of counseling is, it's probably harder than it was in the past, given the events of the last couple of years, but that means it's more rewarding. The challenges may be harder, but the rewards and the solutions are greater, and we see it every day. So what excites me is 700,000 is great, 2 or 3 million is better, and when we see every day families get better, individuals get better as a result of our counseling, that's exciting to me.
Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation with new Crosswinds Counseling CEO Tim Smith. I sat down with him in Fort Wayne a couple of weeks ago to get his thoughts just a few days before he officially became CEO of the organization. Here is part 2 of our conversation. Tim, part 2 of our conversation, and as we wrapped up before the break, you were talking about that vision of going from 700,000 to 2 or 3 million. Let's talk more about your vision. When you think about Crosswinds Counseling into the future, besides raw numbers of face-to-face hours and the chance to impact people purely in a numerical way, what do you think of when you think of the future? What is the vision for this company going forward now with you as CEO?
Look, the vision isn't going to change much because I don't think it's broken. Our board of directors and Mark Terrell, the person who's been the CEO for 29 years, have outlined a great vision around individual health, family health, and community health. The fact is, when individuals succeed, families succeed, communities prosper. It starts at the individual level. That's where the counseling occurs, at the individual level. So the vision is simply to do more of the same. Now, we may do more of the same in new and different venues. Today, we do it largely through corporate clients or schools or individuals in the offices. So we've been thinking and brainstorming a lot about the venues, or some business people would call them the distribution channels of what we do. That will change. Those will grow, and that's exciting. But at the end of the day, we just are people who help people through counseling. That's all we do. We don't make a widget. We don't manufacture anything. We have the privilege all day, every day of simply helping people. And we think the Christ-centric solution, which hasn't changed for decades, and I guarantee it's not going to change going forward, is the best solution.
The power of perhaps looking at new distribution channels or new markets, or just simply reaching more people with that message of Jesus is the answer. To think about the impact, not just here in the temporary on earth, but the kingdom eternal impact. I know that means a lot to you. Can you put that into words, what that would mean for you to get to the end of your tenure as CEO and to look back and think, wow, we touched X number of lives with the love and the message of Jesus?
Well, I don't know how the answer could improve on the question, but let me give it a shot. I mentioned we'll do 700,000. My dad was a pastor for 30 years. I've been involved in the same church since I was 4 years old. That's hard to believe now that I kind of reflect on it and say that out loud. I think, and our church has, 1,000 people. I think about the number of hours throughout a year that our church has to impact lives. Take all the folks in our church who are really Christ followers who love their neighbors. It doesn't come close to 700,000 hours. In fact, I think you'd have to add together a lot of churches, a lot of nonprofits to even get close to that. This Crosswinds organization has the ability to meet people where they are, people who come to us hoping to get help, in a way and in terms of volume that far exceeds what most churches and nonprofits can ever do. So, somebody may come to us with an addiction problem or a marital problem or a parental challenge. And hopefully through the course of our conversations, they'll learn that there's a huge spiritual element in it. And maybe they knew who Christ was, maybe they didn't. But I'm pretty sure they will have been introduced to who he is by the end. You ask, hey, what am I going to think about when I get to the end? I can't even imagine, Curtis, millions and millions and millions of hours over, a lot of years, hopefully as CEO, of our team telling people that Christ is the ultimate solution to their challenges, but more than a solution to challenge, an opportunity for the most abundant life possible. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Wow. Going forward for Crosswinds, one of the challenges that we've already seen, we'll probably continue to see, is overcoming the stigma that exists around mental health, about going to a counselor, about dealing with some of these issues. When you think about the stigma that is out there and how Crosswinds can help to address that and to overcome that, what thoughts come to mind dealing with that stigma?
Yeah. My wife and I are big Colts fans, and we recently have been watching Hard Knocks,
right.
Which highlights the Colts. And one of those episodes, the Coach Wright, had his shirt on, kicking the stigma. And it highlighted what the Colts have been doing in that regard. It warmed my heart, and that seems like a small, soft statement, but that's what it did. It warmed my heart to see an organization with such national prominence, leaders like the owner, the coach, the players, all saying the same thing. There has been historically, maybe it's more so among people kind of my age and older, there has been a stigma to some extent associated with mental health. And that just can't be anymore. Very simply, that cannot be. I salute the Colts for changing it. Our organization certainly has been changing it for decades. We'll continue to change it. I mentioned earlier that I have 5 kids between the ages of 24 and 29. And we talk a lot about this. I actually think that generation is better than my generation in terms of stigma. I don't think there's as much stigma with many of our younger folks today, and that's a great thing.
That is a great thing. Last thing, I want you to briefly explain, kind of give the scope of these organizations, because you're the CEO of Crosswinds Counseling, but you're also the CEO of Lasting Change and Lifeline, other organizations that are in similar space but do slightly different work. Can you briefly kind of give us an overview of the structure?
Yeah. Lasting Change is the umbrella corporation under which is Lifeline, Crosswinds, and Residential. We've talked about Crosswinds. It's a private in-office counseling entity. Lifeline is a home-based counseling entity that does much of our work on behalf of the Indiana Department of Child Services. This year, we'll probably help 10,000 different families across the state of Indiana, meeting with them in their homes, talking about the same sorts of things that we talk about with our clients on the Crosswind side. So home-based, but DCS clients provided. And we're so honored to help that group of folks. And then finally, we have a residential division where if the viewer thinks of a traditional group home, that's what those are. We have a group home in the Dominican Republic. We have one in Pierceton, Indiana, and we have one right here in Fort Wayne. And so these are folks who either come privately to us in the DR or come to us again through DCS with various backgrounds, and the state and the individuals have decided that we can help them in a particular area. So we're one organization with 3 different focuses: in-office counseling, home-based counseling, and then residential or group home type counseling.
Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. In our Counseling Corner segment tonight, we meet Dana Hamilton, one of the outstanding counselors at Crosswinds. Dana is going to share some thoughts on self-care, but she's going to reframe the way we look at it and give you some new thoughts.
Hi, my name is Dana Hamilton, and I am a therapist with Crosswinds. Today I wanted to talk about self-care and reframing it. Society tells us that self-care is typically these grand gestures like a spa day or little vacations that are great every once in a while, but not realistic regularly. Self-care instead can be looked at as small steps we take to create the life that we really want to live. This looks like creating routines for your morning and evening, such as adding exercise of any kind. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. Eating well and praying and taking some silent time to just collect your thoughts. One thing that we should definitely be prioritizing is hygiene. Things like showering regularly, brushing our teeth, washing our face, and our mental hygiene, going to therapy if you need it, taking time to let yourself feel your feelings and cry if you need to, and looking at your screen time. This could be taking less time on social media. It could also mean just looking at your feed and getting rid of any negativity on there and making sure you're following people that bring you joy. If you're at a place where you have no energy to even do the basic things, dumb it down a little bit. If you can't take a full shower, get a baby wipe. If you can't brush your teeth twice a day, just brush it once a day. Any small changes can make a big difference in the end. And give yourself grace while you're trying to figure out what your routines are going to look like. You can change them up and start small. One little thing at a time will eventually create the life that you want to live. So overall, self-care doesn't have to be big or expensive or time-consuming. It's just the idea of taking that time to really take care of yourself in a loving way.
Welcome back. Each week here on Restoring Hope, we take a few minutes to focus on the word hope. It's such an important word and something this world needs now more than ever. Tonight, Crosswinds chaplain Will Gross makes his Restoring Hope debut to tell you how you can find hope through rest.
Hi, I'm Will Gross, a chaplain from Crosswinds Counseling, and tonight I'd like to bring you a message of hope. Do you ever feel downtrodden? Do you feel tired? Do you feel worn down by the pressures of life, as if the world is just pulling you to the ground and you can't find any rest? I have definitely felt that way, and I find hope in knowing that I serve a God who prioritizes rest. We see this all the way back in Genesis, in the creation story. After God makes the world in 6 days, the seventh day he takes to rest. I think that God is setting a pattern for you and for me and how we should live our lives. And I think that's a physical rest. But what about a spiritual rest? Jesus talks about this too in the Gospel of Matthew. He says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. That's the message of hope. Jesus wants to give you rest. He wants to give me rest. He wants to give rest to the whole world. And that's the message of hope that I want you to hear tonight.
Thanks, Will. It's great to have you as part of the Restoring Hope team. Well, it's an exciting time at Crosswinds Counseling. We have a new CEO whom you met earlier tonight. And you can hear the heart of this organization through Dana's words on self-care and Will's words on finding hope in rest. With all of that, you may be motivated to meet with a counselor. Please reach out to us. However, you may find yourself in a different boat tonight. Maybe you are a counselor or a therapist looking for a great place to work. Crosswinds counselors do wonderful work, and Crosswinds Counseling may be the right place for you. We're looking for wonderful men and women to pour into the lives of others and help them when they need it most. You can check out all of the career opportunities that we have at Crosswinds Counseling at crosswindscounseling.org/careers. Maybe you're not a counselor or a therapist. We've got spots for you as well. Not every job at Crosswinds Counseling is about the work in the field. We need great people in the office to support all the counselors and therapists and everything that they're doing. Having said that, the need for Crosswinds counselors and therapists, it's never been higher. And maybe it's not the right fit for you. Maybe you need to pass this information on to a friend or a family member, someone you know that is a counselor that could be doing valuable work out in the field. Please point them to crosswindscounseling.org/careers. Well, thanks again for joining us tonight. It is a real blessing to be here every Thursday night at 9:30 on WHMB TV 40. We truly are blessed by this time together. We hope that you are as well. And we thank our sponsors who make this possible each week: Tesco, Shepherd Community Center, and Prime 47 downtown. Without the investment of those companies who are doing such amazing work in Indianapolis, we would not be here every Thursday night. So we truly thank them and thank WHMB TV 40 for the partnership as well. Thanks again for joining us. We will be back here next Thursday night at 9:30. We'll see you then. Stay safe and be blessed.